Charles Blacklands.
Here.
Reed Campbell.
Here.
Tom Hagen.
Here.
Sue Kern. Here. Bruce Nelson. Here. Bob Nystrom.
Here.
All present.
Okay, please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just as a reminder again, due to the stay-at-home order by Governor Walz, the school board and a couple of administrators are here in the boardroom, but it is considered an interconference meeting, so open to the public through our remote access, which is through communication at isd181.org. We'll begin with approval of our agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nystrom, second by Director Nelson for approval of our agenda. Any discussion? Not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up will be public input, and again, this is through our email and communication at isd181.org. We'll wait just a little bit to see if anything comes through. There were two, I do want to at least let everyone know, there were two emails that came in, which we'll read those when we get to our graduation discussion, because they're both related to some thoughts and ideas for graduation. So if those that are listening in our audience, we do have these two that we'll address at that time.
Corey, are you there?
I'm here, and there's nothing beyond the two emails that Tom spoke about.
Thank you.
Okay, and those two, one is from John and one is from Jen. I'll just leave it at that. So, okay, we will move, continue on then with approval of our minutes from April 27th.
So moved.
Second. School board meeting minutes of April 27th. Any discussion? Not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda as presented.
I'll move approval of that consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Nystrom for approval of the consent agenda. Any discussion? No, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Presentations. Marcy, 2021 budget review that Marcy's going to walk us through.
All right, so we've had meetings last week to discuss some of these in more detail. So I'm going to do a brief overview, but please let me know if you have any questions. This is as of May 1st. As you know, things are always evolving and changing. In fact, this is outdated with new resignations, retirements, and all that, but I want to give you guys a brief summary. So we start with the unassigned deficit from 2019-20 at $729,000. We looked at our projected revenue increase back in March. As we discussed, we were looking at a decrease of about 46.5 ADMs, going to 6,518 in total. But since COVID, we did decrease that number even more. We took 2 per grade level. So now we're going to be projected down 72.5 ADMs. And then there is going to be an increase, a slight increase in the levy. We still did keep that 2% in the gen ed aid formula. And then special ed aid, we have a projected $1 million increase. And in federal funding, we did take a 10% decrease as per, we've done that previously in the years, and we haven't heard anything different that it would be different from that. So that encompasses all the projected revenue increases of the 1.2. The projected increase in existing expenses, so salary and benefits is the large portion of that. We do have some increases in contracts, et cetera, but the main part is salary and benefits. Cost savings from staff replacements, so there's 157,000 in 20.82 FTEs, so down below it, we have positions replaced broken out by certified and non-certified. So we're replacing about 18.5 certified and 2.33 non-certified next year. And again, that's as of May 1st. That'll be changing as we progress through this year. Proposed net expense adjustments. So that 1.8 million is the summary of all the positions that we've added and reduced. So on the chart below, certified, we're adding 5 positions and reducing 10.36. The transferred in and transferred out is just moving staff within our buildings since we have so many sites. And then in the non-certified, we'll be adding about 5.13 FTE and reducing 28.43. So we come to that projected unassigned surplus of 220,000. The next line item is the cost of positions. So with all these unknowns, we are holding on positions, posting them. So it may be because when we looked at it, we thought, well, what if we're distance learning in the fall? Is this position needed? Or what if enrollment is less than what we even projected? Do we need to post these positions now? So in total, we're going to have about 8.76 FTE that we are just going to hold on. But if we were to add those all back into our budget, we would be looking at a deficit of 145,000. So I just wanted to make you aware that, you know, we do have a projected surplus right now, but if we put those positions back in, we're at a projected deficit. So with the unassigned fund balance of 6.7 million projected, plus the projected unassigned surplus, we'd be sitting at about almost $7 million in fund balance, which is still only a little under 8%. That recommendation is 25, so we're still at less than 1 month operating. So that's kind of the summary of this page. Is there anything you have questions on this page? The second page is just breaking those additions, reductions, and replacements down by site. And then the third page was a summary of where those reductions were in the elementary so that you could see those class sizes. So our target in kindergarten through 4 is 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And then we have the high and the low being 10%. And there is a couple of outliers in there, but we are going to be monitoring those throughout the year or throughout the next couple months.
One thing that I would like to bring forward to the board, just as the fact again that one of the responsibilities that we have is to bring forward a balanced budget to the Board of Education. And that's what we brought forward to you tonight. However, as you'll notice, one of our major goals that we had was to make sure that there was no one who lost their position as part of this reduction as much as we possibly can, because there are so many unknowns, and it's really important to us to keep as many of our staff employed as we possibly can. Therefore, there's no board action that needs to be taken regarding this budget. However, one thing I do want to make perfectly clear is that, again, this budget is not final, because we're going to be watching it with a fine-tooth comb in the months of June, July, and even into August to see what happens with enrollment, to listen carefully to see what happens with state and federal funding, if there's any changes in our local levy, and so on. And so what we have brought forth to you tonight is our best prediction of what we think it could look like this fall, and we have brought forward a balanced budget to you, given the unknown information that we have at this time.
Okay, good, thank you. So, first of all, thank you, Lane and team, for working on trying to balance a 2021 budget. It's interesting to think that we're upside down, I think, by over $1 million, just simply because of state funding. That's $1 million less than just what our benefits and wages are. And so without doing anything different, we have $1 million that needs to come from someplace else. let alone other costs that increase. So it definitely is a really big challenge. I did want to, if we could, open it up a little bit for some discussion regarding what is being proposed. I'm sure many of you received some emails regarding our paraprofessionals, in particular in the potential of converting what I understand as classified as general paraprofessionals in the elementary level to special ed. And I'm sure, like I said, many of you have received emails regarding that. So I would like to open that up for a little discussion. I did have a chance to meet with Marcy and Lane to get a little more details on our paraprofessionals, how many we have, what buildings are they in, what grade levels. And then ultimately it led me to a question of where, as a non-educator, where do teachers, where does administration principals, where do they think our greatest value in having paraprofessionals? And it's my understanding, and it seems to make logical sense to me as well, that in those younger grades, kindergarten and up is where there's a tremendous amount of value. Yet we're somewhat upside down because of whatever the reasons are, historical reasons, past decisions, whatever it might be. But I'm wondering if this isn't an opportunity for us to, not necessarily to right size, but to, and I even use the words correct, but change what historically has been the practice to something that maybe is something we need to do or consider moving forward. And I know I tend to often will say, we can get this done in 6 weeks. Let's just put our minds to it and we can make changes. But I think as we're looking at and trying to balance our budget, it just seems like we might want to consider ways of keeping our numbers of paraprofessionals in the younger grades versus middle and high school, and keeping it open so that they're not, again, it's my understanding that once you convert to special ed title, that then they have to be assigned a certain number of students versus general. And correct me if I'm not right with this one, certainly. But I would almost throw out the challenge, well, how do we correct this? How do we make the change? Yep, it might have an impact to the number of pairs that we have at high school level or in transportation or in some of the other areas, but so that we can make sure that we're covered well in the elementary level. So I just wanted to open that up for a little bit of discussion because that is the big part of the number, one of the big numbers in here when we look at trying to balance that budget. I'd like to open up for a little discussion so we can give Lane and Marcy and team some thoughts and direction on that.
Yeah, I agree that I kind of feel that it should be more on the elementary side too, but shows, we should have more there with those youngsters. So, can agree with the chairman on that. And, then from what we hear on the emails and very passionate and they tell a good story, and I think it's true that we need more of them there. So kind of in favor of that too, if we can do something.
The understanding I have though is that the paraprofessionals we have left are special ed ones that we're required to have with certain students. They follow the students, not the grade.
Correct, they follow the IEP. And Marcy, can you give me the number? I don't have it offhand. The reimbursement, what it costs the general fund for special ed versus a regular education para?
So we get an estimated 55% reimbursement, so they generally cost about 45%. So if they're 35,000, it's around the 18,000 that we would spend essentially.
So it's kind of 1 to 2 just about. So if you keep a regular ed, you may have to reduce 2 special education paras to keep the same dollar value approximately.
However, the benefits are the same, right? Is there reimbursement on the health insurance?
Yes.
So the 55 is across
Yes.
not only compensation but benefits.
Yes.
Okay.
And the one thing that we spoke with when Tom brought it up was, we can talk about it, but it may be a slow process. Like, I know he wants 6 weeks. But that we do have things written into IEPs, so it is something that we can definitely work towards. I just don't know how quickly we can make that model turn around.
So again, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but the connection, you're right, Ruth, that they're connected with particular students, but that's because that's how we write it in when that need is there. And so I think we have to be cautious when we do that, because it's kind of like a one and done, once written in, and that para follows that student all the way through, because that's how it's written in. So in my mind, it's a fundamental change in how we look at things, but if we were to start from scratch, if there were no paras and we were going to hire paras to begin with, where would we start? And what I've heard is if you have that opportunity, you would put it in those elementary level, as well as for our special needs also.
I agree. I believe that with kindergarten being such an impressionable time for young people, there's more going on obviously than simply math or the actual education of academics, but also the bringing students online in terms of what it's like to be a student, how to find bathrooms, how to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. It would be a bit concerning to me if we didn't have a clear game plan in terms of supporting those instructors at the kindergarten level. Granted, I'm not far enough in the weeds where I know exactly how that's covered. I just know that that's a concern that I have, and an assurance I'd love to have at some level that these teachers and most importantly these students at a very young age are supported. With that being said, I have a question on the title of title schools. Like Baxter is not one of the title schools, but some of the others. How does that play out in terms of who has the paras in this potential way of going about things?
So we don't have any parents coded in title. They're all certified staff, so that title does not play a role with parents.
So it doesn't.
But to answer your question about title funding, we received Title I and Title IV funding, Title II, from the federal government. And just as Marcy talked about, every year, as long as I can remember, we've taken either a 10 or a 15% reduction in that. So we get less and less money supporting those services. The title services are for children that don't qualify for special education, and yet they're struggling in the regular education classroom. So it's to give them those added incentives to help them to kind of to be successful. If I remember correctly, you need 40%, is it 40% free and reduced at each of the buildings in order to qualify. Plus there's some other extenuating circumstances to qualify. All of our elementaries qualify for Title I services except for Baxter and Nisswa. They don't have the free and reduced percentage that meets that criteria to do that work. And so that might be part of this as well, that they don't get some of those supports that we're able to give to our title schools, those that qualify for title services. But that might be a place where we can at least start looking at this whole formula as we move forward. And again, like I said earlier, this doesn't necessarily have to be finalized. And so hopefully things are going to come in better than we're anticipating, but we'll see as we move through the summer months, and we will be bringing the budget back. I'm very open to listening to this and doing some more work in this area to see what we can do and to address the needs of our elementary learners.
I would also support trying to keep the paras of the kindergarten, but I have a question. You know, we've gotten a lot of letters from the kindergarten parents, but how about first or second grade? Are there paras there right now? No. Oh, there aren't. It's just kindergarten.
Just kindergarten. They're the only regular education paras that we have except for early childhood. And those are mandated by legislation.
There used to be.
Yeah.
Pairs.
In some schools, I think in the Titan schools.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep, great question,
The IEP students, they follow them through the whole.
right? Or the services, so if they go from one grade level to the next, or they go to another building, they could have a different case manager to help meet their needs, but that service, unless it's taken out of the IEP, that service remains. So if a child is classified that they need a one-to-one paraprofessional at a very young age, if that isn't taken out of the IEP at some point because they feel like they've made that kind of progress, then that para's support will follow that child.
So do we do a good review every year on whether children still need that? Is that something we've looked at in the past?
That could be a good,
Seems like that would where.
Yeah,
where
I
we
think
need to
that's,
start.
yeah, because it's that committee, if you will. The committee is made up, I believe, of the principal, the para, teacher, parents. I don't know if there's anyone else. So there, I think that's, that could be one of the improvement areas. Yeah. So you were.
Because if a child needs more help, we need to give it to them. But at certain times, they may not. So we just have to be really careful when we make those IEPs and then to review them every year. So, and I can see where teachers and principals, they want that extra help too. So it's kind of something that really has to be watched.
I would agree with you, Mr. Chair, that we need to have more of the help in the kindergarten, the parents, and I would like to continue that if we can do that.
Well, thanks for the comments. I know as I've responded to all the emails, it's our obligation, a requirement to balance budget, so we have to do that. And I started asking for some input from those that send emails. Where would you suggest that we could make some other cuts because we have to balance? There's only so many dollars to go around. I haven't received any responses yet on that request, but it's a challenge. I would ask though that let's I don't know, you meet with your admin team frequently and principals, et cetera, that I think we need to dig into it kind of right now. As you said, the budget is good. We're looking at a lot of unknowns, so things are moving and shaking all the time here over these next several weeks. But I think we still have to be balanced. But how do we do that collectively? Maybe with maybe our middle and high school principals and maybe it's all of the other elementary principals to figure out a way to balance, but you have to retain those areas. Okay. Good. Thanks for the discussion.
Can I ask one more thing? I think, and this is easier said than done because you guys are doing the work, but with these new schools opening up this fall, I think we got to be really careful on what we cut in the kindergarten level because we want new parents excited to bring their kids into school. So I hate to see this cut because of that. The other thing, when the levy failed in 2007, it was a really tough time from November of 2007 to May of 2008. Well, actually through the end of the summer. And what happened, there was so much stress and division within making all those cuts that we overcut. And so I know this is a really hard time right now, but I also want to remember the school district is going to survive through this. And I want us just to try to use some caution when we're making the cuts because it might not be as bad as we think it might be.
You're absolutely right. And that's really why we're holding up through the summer to watch it carefully. But I totally agree with you, and that's what we hope is going to happen.
And to add to that, I think that speaks to our concern about fund balance. We need to, when this is over, have a priority of increasing our fund balance so that when times like this happen, we can wait a while and know we have the money, the dollars there to get through it. So I think everyone put that in, that once we're through this and we know where we're at, we have to work on our fund balance.
Totally agree. A 1 month balance is it's way too risky. Good,
I agree. Thank you.
thanks for the discussion. Thanks, Marcy.
Yeah, thank you. And, we'll work on that and then June will, present a budget that you guys will approve and we'll go from there.
Is the deadline for the state July 1,
We have to have it approved by June 30th.
June 30th? Okay, and might they give us some leeway on that because of the unknown?
I have not heard anything about that.
I think it's gonna be interesting to also to see what happens now with the legislature, if, when the session ends, if they'll be done or if they'll be coming back. And, I think they've got so many decisions to make too, that, what those people are confronted with right now, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And so, I think if we can just, kind of like Andrea said the other day, if we can be hopeful and we can just pause a little bit and kind of wait this out. And we're willing to do that as long as the board is willing to know that that's kind of where we're at in this budget at that time.
Yeah, I did listen to the commissioner today. I don't know if any of the rest of you on what I got from that is they really don't know yet. There's a lot of unknowns out there. So,
Okay, great, thank you. Moving to some actionable items, and up next we'll have presentation with ICS team and others. Damien, take it away.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
It's great to see you all together. Sorry I'm not there.
Happy to be here.
We'll go ahead and get started. So here are bond improvement updates for Monday, May 11th, 2020. We're going to review project updates. We're going to review a couple change orders for the high school, PR number 7 and PR number 9. We'll discuss COVID-19 briefly. And then we also have Lindsay Krims with us from WSN. I guess I'll just do WITSEF now. And she's going to review some FF&E items. So with that said, we did have a great opportunity last week, Tuesday and Wednesday, to do some tours and got to see everybody on site except for Tom. Just kidding, Tom. But anyway, got to see great progress. I hope everybody enjoyed taking the tours. I know our team had a great opportunity to show off the projects. So. All right. With that said, we'll go ahead. Scott Whitmore, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Scott, do you want to walk us through the high school?
Sure, quick product update. So if anybody's been by there today, you'll notice that we started doing our sanitary tie-ins in the middle of 5th Street there, and as such, 5th Street is detoured around Oak and down Quint Street. So 5th in front of the high school there is closed for now. Tomorrow they'll be setting some RTUs, so we'll be capitalizing on that road closure. We can get up there and get the RTU set on the east side of the area 2, and then on the north side, area 1. Exterior framing is pretty much wrapped up. It's all sheeted out, with the exception of the overhang going over the entry into the pack, so we'll be working on that this week. Demo of the existing building is going fantastic. The school was able to get most of their rooms vacated last week Friday, or the Friday before last. We were in there all last week demoing, got a lot of stuff knocked out. We have a bunch of framing going back in, and that's progressing really well. The inner courtyard additions come along really well. They're hanging steel, getting the sheeting, the decking on right now. They're going to start framing in the next week and a half. So everything's tracking really, really well out there right now. The crews have really, really stepped up with this opportunity to get out there and get moving ahead in some of these areas. And they've been chopping at the bit to get a lot done. I'm sure everybody who's on the tour can see it's changing weekly and it's going very, very well. Any questions on the update? Hear none, I'll move on there. PRO7, which is structural steel Audiovisual, kick equipment clarifications. A lot of it's from shop drawings, but some of it's from the MDH, so we did have to change the grease interceptor in the kitchen, which would be the sealant and RJ component of that. The sealant, the BSI, we did have to relocate some instrument panels in the aquatic center. So that's what that change is there. And then the high-tech change, so there's a number of different ones in there. Increasing the amount of columns going around the exterior of the building, beefing up of the window openings, and then also furring out those internal walls in the studio stage, or not studio stage, studio and new tech rooms northeast of the D building. Any questions for that?
Scott, who are the major contractors for that one?
It's high-tech, Thielen, heating,
That's fine.
RJ Mechanical,
Okay,
Cullinex is a credit, and then VSI.
okay.
Say that again, high-tech, Thielen, VSI, and who else?
RJ Mechanical and Cullinex.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hearing no questions on that, move on to PR 9. This PR is plumbing plan review items. So this captures everything from our kind of long drawn out plumbing plan review process there, with the exception of the actual jack and bore. So this is capturing everything else, all the storm additions, new tie-ins, upsiding rain meters, changing configurations, adding hose bibs on the roof. There's about 15 pages of items that were identified in the plumbing plan review that are now changed.
So Scott, we hadn't approved
Yeah.
any of those costs prior to today. Seems like we
I
talked about that a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a good point. We did approve something that, at least maybe it was the testing for this, but maybe not the actual dollars. Or maybe it was just in a oversight committee meeting discussion.
That's why, I just,
Yeah, the oversight meeting discussion. I believe.
so this is the first change order on the plumbing issue,
That's correct.
And that takes care of it 100% though, right?
except for the jack and board. Which, how much will that be, Scott, the jack and board?
We were anticipating up to about $400,000, so we're still getting the plans finalized on that to issue out here, and then I'll have a better idea.
Who does this order, who's included in this one? What plumbing company?
Well, because it's a little bit of everybody. Anderson Brothers for all their tie-in work, and of course I just exited out of the page as I was pulling it up. The Anderson Brothers, High Tech, Thielen Roofing, the roofing and HVAC, RJ Mechanical, Holden, and it's due to the nature of the changes to get the plumbing plan review approved. There's work for most contractors in there. It's loading back up here. If you give me 1 second. Tried to maximize my screen, and instead of maximize, I closed it out. All right. So we have Anderson Brothers, Rice Lake, Holden, Thielen HVAC, RJ Mechanical, LVC, Murphy Window and Door, That's it. Questions with PR9?
No.
I will note that it would be approved as not to exceed because we, there are a couple of things that we're working on, both with the Anderson brothers to reduce that cost, and minimizing the size of the fence from 12 foot, 8 foot 6. So I'm still waiting on getting the updated pricing on that. And then, an updated price from High Tech as well. So that's why the price is listed as not to exceed.
Okay. There's a lot of great progress happening at the high school. We have a lot of big crews out on site, a lot of manpower. We're working with social distancing, and as you see in the tours, there's still a lot of progress being made. It's just a lot of positive, a lot of positivity when you walk on the site and see all the progress. So keep up the good work, Scott and crew.
How many people would you say are working on that project at one stadium right now?
We've ranged anywhere from in the, I'd say mid to high 60s all the way up to 100 people, depending on what's going on. Scott, do you have a count from today?
123 today.
Wow. Awesome. Is that the most we've had on the site so far?
Today, yep. And we're gonna have about 15 more starting next week, Monday. So, every day it's gonna continue to grow and grow as we get more near the major demo activities, which will start around the 26th of May.
Hey everybody, Reed Peafy here. I wanted to just add that too. Obviously, we're spreading out throughout the facility. We're now all the way through the kitchen and commons area, through the band rooms, and they're heading down towards the CTE classrooms on the southeast corner. So, I know we have a large number of people there on site. Scott and Joe and Robert are doing a great job of working with those crews to try and keep everybody spread out.
Awesome.
Yeah, one thing worth noting too is once, since we've had the case on site and we had the shutdown, most all the contractors now are taking things a lot more seriously on site. The awareness is a lot higher, so they're working really hard to make sure that they're spread out. So. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions on the high school?
I want to ask Damien if you could get this information to the school here a little bit sooner so that we could actually read through all of the pages instead of just right before the meeting, they're all put on here. That would be helpful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, Scott, do you want to give us an update on South Campus?
Absolutely, South Campus. So we had the design kickoff at the beginning of April. We've had a project directors meeting, one user group meeting, and the next user group meeting is scheduled for May 19th. Moving forward, just due to the coronavirus situation, we are compiling and setting up a virtual tour. That will be done May 19th. Right now, we have 46,000 square feet of building slated for demolition, and that leaves 71,000 square foot of remodel remaining, and that would bring the main entrance to the east side of the building, as discussed at oversight last week, Tuesday. So yeah, we're well into SDs and just working on getting the programming fleshed out and space for everyone who needs space in that building. So it's going pretty well.
That's great. All right, we'll continue on. New Baxter Elementary. We're working on foundation work at the new gym, the additional gym. Curtain walls being installed. Painting at the administration and media area. Cafeteria equipment is being installed. Working on exterior metal panels, and then the grading, curb and gutter, and sidewalks are all being installed. So there's a lot of activity on site, a lot of great progress. Any questions on New Baxter?
So how many people do we have out there working?
We've been running, like mid-50s, like 55 people on site. Somewhere between 45 and 55, so. I'm sure numbers probably jumped a little bit because of the exterior work.
Damien, are you having any issues getting material in that has been ordered? Someone had said some of the material's coming like from Mexico and it's getting hard to. Is that slowing the project down at all?
Yeah. It is and it isn't. I mean, it's, I don't know about, actually Justin's on the line, New Baxter specific, I don't know that we're feeling it quite as much. I know like at high school, we have, like the carpet mills are shut down in Georgia and it's delayed the carpet being delivered for some of the areas up on the second level for areas 1 and 2, or 1 and 3, I'm sorry. We're feeling some things like that. New Baxter specific, I haven't heard anything that's been a concern. I know Justin is on the line. Justin, do you have anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, no, for Baxter and Neswa, the trails were ordered for early, so we're not really experiencing much of an impact. The only thing we know for sure right now is probably some operable partitions that we may or may not have in time for Baxter specifically. Where you want to hear me?
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
Great, Justin. Okay, next.
All right, Missile Elementary, working on demolition of the renovation areas, finishes in the administrative entrance, framing at the renovation areas, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-ins. We got a great start in there. Reed and Molly and their team has gotten us in there early to start the demo process. And again, a lot of great progress is being made on site, so it's good to see.
How many people are working on this one?
Justin, do you have a count for us?
Yeah, right around 30 to 40. Right now.
Okay, I'll keep going. Harrison Elementary, working on exterior and interior storefronts. MEP rough-ins and drywall at the lower levels are ongoing. Kitchen equipment is being installed. Interior finishes, including painting, ceramic tile piecework, and acoustical ceiling grid are being installed throughout. Lower level phase 2 demo is ongoing. And they're also working with, again, Reed and Kathy and the staff and getting some work done in the existing building now. I believe they're working on getting lockers out this week and hopefully getting some more spaces. So we're taking advantage of every day we can get. So again, making progress on site.
Damien, when will the building that you guys used to have your office in, when will you start working on that building? The deconstruction?
As far as the demo?
Yeah.
The deconstruction? I believe that's scheduled next week and a half.
They were, Lane, they were transferring ICS operations over to the gymnasium, the new gymnasium at Harrison. So, excuse me, as soon as they are done moving over there, we will, I think Kyle and Eric have that slated, like Davey said, for probably the end of this week, beginning of next week sometime to start taking that down. I just want to add too, both Harrison and Nisswa, the teaching and paraprofessional staff at each school have been amazing on getting us moved out either on time or ahead of time. So I know at Harrison we were planning on getting out by the end of the week, and they are, I believe that as of today they were 99.9% done. Just one little small space to address yet, and we're on our way. So I just want to give everybody some recognition there for doing all the hard work.
Reed, I'd like to say staff and amazing at Neswa.
Yeah, it's, a little bit of a silver, it's been great to get an early start in the buildings and take advantage of a bad situation and you know, we're trying to make lemonade out of lemons, right? So it is a good thing that we can at least get started in there and get an early jump. And it's a little bit exciting too, guys. I mean, you know, we're starting to see some of the fun stuff happen here, and again, see some of this demolition take place, and know we're going to start getting these schools torn apart and put back together.
Yeah,
we're all gonna wanna
whoops, I'm sorry. My favorite room so far is the media center, treehouse over there in Harrison.
Yeah, I was just saying, same thing, I was gonna say, we're all gonna wanna volunteer in the media center right there, so.
No doubt. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it turned out to be a great space for sure. Garfield Elementary, some mills are being reviewed, pre-construction walkthroughs and field verifications are ongoing. Building and plumbing plan review is back in the state and has been submitted to the city for final building permit. Department of Health permit review is ongoing. Basically, we're just on the final lap of getting our permits and getting started in the building. I do know that we've started some demolition on site. We've mobilized and torn down the 2 homes. So sounds like that went pretty well. Lowell, construction activities continue to be coordinated with the trades. Underground electrical service conduit was installed to support upcoming construction activities. Building permit is anticipated to be completed this week. And then site security and stormwater pollution prevention plan is getting implemented as well. And then we'll be looking to start the demolition of those homes, except for the one we're considering trying to save. Riverside Elementary construction, basically the same spot as well. Construction activities are continuing to be coordinated with the trades. Building permit is anticipated to be completed this week. We're working on getting our site security and stormwater pollution prevention plan in place. And yeah, we're just, again, on the final lap of permitting, getting ready to start. So we got all of our milestones set as far as getting precast wall panels installed here end of June and early July for those projects. So a lot of good work happening behind the scenes right now. Warrior Early Learning Center contracts have been sent to the prime contractors. Permitting is in process and submittals are in process. So we're a little ways away from that one starting, but again, getting the behind the scenes things taken care of. The blocking and tackling. COVID-19 update, not a lot of change for us right now. We've gotten through the confirmed case with the high school, and we've gotten back to work. I haven't had any more confirmed cases since then, and we're making huge headway right now, and we'll continue to do so. So everything's all positive on the construction sites at the moment. We're dealing with the small things, you know, whether it's material shortages or you know, we have some crew shortages that, you know, someone doesn't feel good, they want to come to work. We're dealing with a little bit of that, but the atmosphere on the site aren't, you know, there's not people aren't afraid to come to work. I think they like coming to work because I think it kind of keeps everybody moving. So so hopefully we'll just keep working together with everybody and hope that we continue not to have any more cases and make great headway. Any questions on that?
Any questions for anyone? Thank you.
Okay. I have Lindsay here. Lindsay wants to give us a quick FFP update.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. Since our last school board meeting, we have made some progress on the elementary school pilot classroom. The last time we were all together, we talked about a $200,000 FFP allowance. which would allow for the purchasing of not only the pilot classes at the elementary school, but the ancillary spaces as well, including the administrative furniture, nurses, office space, conference rooms, art, science, technology, and learning commons furniture. Since we last met, we circled back with the 6 elementary school principals and reviewed the plans with them one last time. There was some modification. We switched the room location that the principals desired to have the pilot classrooms in. So today, we're asking for a new approval for a price of $284,290. Did I say that right? $284,290. So this did not, we did not increase the price of the furniture. What we did is we increased the volume of furniture that was being purchased. So when we originally planned for these pilot classrooms, we had targeted very specific rooms that already had quantity of existing furniture that we could utilize in the pilot classrooms. So shifting away from those rooms to rooms that the principals targeted from an educational delivery standpoint, those rooms didn't have as much furniture, if any at all. And so we're just kind of increasing the volume of what we had originally them purchasing. We still included in that price our purchasing furniture for the administrative areas of grade 1 school, the nurse, the conference room, media center, art, science, technology where needed, and then some additional pieces for the learning commons. Again, those wave 2 schools, I'm sorry, the wave 1 schools, the wave 2 schools, those ancillary spaces will wait until this time next year for ordering.
Great, any questions for Lindsay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you guys. So we'll take these one at a time. Our first action item is approval of PR 07 as presented.
So moved.
Second. Okay, motion by Director Nystrom, second by Director Campbell for approval. Any discussion? I will abstain from voting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is approval of PR 09 as presented.
I'll move approval of PR 09 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Nystrom for approval. Any further discussion?
So what if it exceeds that amount by 100,000 or by 50,000?
Then we will come back to you and ask you to increase it, kind of like we are the FF&E today.
Okay.
Because we changed the scope on that, and so we'll bring it forward to you. If it's a small amount of money, then Mercy, Reed, and I have the authority up to $50,000, but otherwise we'll just bring it here and ask you to update it.
Any other questions, comments? Again, I will abstain from voting. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is approval of the FF&E that was presented.
I motion to approve the furniture, fixtures, and equipment purchases in the elementary pilot classrooms, media centers, and Baxter, Harrison Elementary, and administrative commons areas of Baxter, Harrison, and Missile.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Blackman, second by Director Kern for approval as presented. Any further discussion, questions? And we'll again abstain from voting. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is our approval of our annual subscription of board book for $2,100. Lane, did you want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, this will just be updating our opportunity to use board book for doing our board agendas and getting the information out to you as well as to the public. And so to update it for tier 1 next year is a cost of $2,100. And so we would recommend the board approve this amount.
I so move to go with the board book for next year.
Second.
Motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Kern for approval of the board book for $2,100. Any discussion, questions?
I have a quick question, and chalk this up as a newbie, I guess, still use that. But is there any? Is there any other platform that we'd be able to use instead of Workbook? Or is there a reason that it's not privy to as to why Workbook? I'm happy with Workbook, I think it's fine, but.
No, I think there are some other platforms, but I think this has been working for us, and so we haven't even looked into anything else.
We did look
This
at
is also supported by MSBA.
That's true too.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
It's just in the whole mindset of trimming where we can trim, just wondering if there's any other tools or platforms that we already have in-house that we can utilize. 'Cause really, Boardbook itself, I mean, what it does, at least how I use it, it's not overly dynamic, at least the features that we use.
The whole program will be changing over, August 1. They're going to a 2-tiered program, but we're going in with the minor program until we get used to using. It's becoming more of an interactive format with the new changes. So there's gonna be a learning curve with the new program too, which I think you'll find, like I said, more interactive for you to even use too.
I guess I would have just thought that in the type of setting we've been in through the stay at home, that if there was any fancy features for somebody, then maybe bringing them online, we would have been able to access them when we've been at home or at a distance, we'll be able to capitalize on them. Again, I'm fine with this.
It's good to get another one. 5 years ago, but.
I think that was more expensive.
Yeah, it was more costly.
I know this seems to work really well for you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, as
That
far
makes
as,
sense with
Yeah.
the board, yeah.
Okay, good discussion, good question. Any others? Not those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carries. Next up is our annual 2021 approval of our membership with MSHSL.
this is just asking us to be, to pay for the annual, membership into the Minnesota State High School League. So all of our athletics and the activities that we host through our school district, that we will be members of the Minnesota State High School League. Offhand, I don't remember exactly what the amount is, but I know it's the same price that it was last year, so. Do you remember, Marcy, at all?
Something 20, I think it's up $10 per sport from last year.
10? Okay.
$120.
There's 34 sports.
I think so. And they extended the discount until the end of the month, instead of the 15th.
And we made that date this time, so last year we missed it by one meeting, so we have to go back.
So it's about, what, 3,700 or something like that.
Cha-ching.
And actually, it's, you know, both Charlie and I sit on the Central Lakes Conference board for the Minnesota State High School League, and I know he's been very active at the state level, and they do a lot of great things for us as well as helping to, I think the biggest thing is like problem solving situations that come up or that other schools have, and it's really nice to sit at that table with all the conference members to problem solve for our individual regions. So yeah, I just recommend the board approve it.
I'll move approval of the 2020 to 21 resolution for membership. SHSL.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Nystrom for approval. Any further discussion? If not, we'll do roll call.
Reed Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Hagelin,
Yes.
Sue Kern,
Yes.
Ruth Nelson,
Yes.
Bob Nystrom,
Yes.
Charles Blacklands,
Yes.
all in favor.
Thank you. Next up is approval of our IT service agreement with Paul Bunyan Educational Cooperative. Marcy.
So this is a brand new agreement. Previously, the education cooperative used CTC for services. And there was a little bit of a delay for them, and they were pretty much using our staff anyways. So they approached us last spring and asked if we could have some sort of an agreement to use our IT staff. And our attorney drafted this based on the services that our IT staff felt like they could do. It's for the same price that they were paying to CTC, and it is starting this year and ongoing unless one of us terminates that agreement. Any questions on this?
And how much are you paying?
$750 per month.
We're doing this with current staff.
Yes, and they are actually tracking with their tickets the service that they're providing to the co-op.
Justin, you can take on more. I saw we were approved the IT services agreement with all the education profit that presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Blackland. Is there a, so it's an annual renewal, is there a 30-day out clause?
It is, they have to let us know by June 1st if they want to be out for the following year.
So it's locked in for 1 year, and then 30-day notice after that?
Yep. So it's gonna automatically renew unless they cancel.
And is it the same timeline for us if we choose to cancel?
Yes.
But I'm asking the question because I would just be concerned about providing that service. You know, as we continue down with more electronics, you think about our I just drew a blank, our online education that we're doing right now and the tremendous burden that put on in short order. So I'm concerned about committing to a 12-month. I'm not opposed to moving forward with this, but if we felt 30 days down the road or any time down the road that it's too much.
It sounded like we were doing some of it, even with CTC, we're still, they're not getting paid, so now at least we'll get $750 a month. But
Yes.
I can't agree if it's too much, yeah, we should continue, but at least get some money out of it.
And Justin is right behind me, but they were in support of this as well.
Is there an option to just edit that contract to a 30-day out or a 60-day clause?
I could work with John and see if we could, you know, word that differently and bring it back. Rather than
It's just my thoughts. We do have a motion in a second. But. Any other questions, comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries 5-1.
Thank you.
Next up is just a discussion about our next board meeting, which is May 27th at 12 o'clock, which is Wednesday.
Memorial Day.
I think this is great that we've been able to meet tonight like this. It's just seems so much easier to conduct a meeting. Sometimes it's through the virtual meetings. So I would certainly move that we would meet again here in the board on May 27th.
Second.
Can I just get a little bit of clarification though? We've still classified this as a virtual meeting because we have 10 people and we have many members that are listening, including the newspaper and such. And so we classified this as a virtual meeting with the board on site. But if we continue to classify it as a virtual meeting, if by chance one of you wanted to take it from home, you would still have that opportunity to do it. But if all 6 of you weren't here, we would have to do everything by roll call, each of the votes. But because you're all here tonight, we were able to do the regular voting as we did. So what we're asking for here is that it would be identical to the way it's being done tonight.
Yeah, you know, and I guess I also wonder with the stay-at-home order to expire on the 18th, it might be extended, but we don't know. If it's not extended, there's an opportunity to have regular board meeting that allows for public to join, even though there likely would be the social distancing requirements. How we might be able to entertain that as well. I mean, it's just because we don't know what's going to take place this week. You know, we'd have to have limited capacity. That's only assuming that it's not open up wide open. But once we set this in motion for a virtual meeting, are we able to change that in advance if we wanted to, if things change, or is it safer to go this route and then take it as it comes?
I think the virtual meeting, from my understanding, it doesn't say that it has to be 10 people or less. The reason we have 10 people or less right now is because that's what we've been asked to do, is to limit the number of people to 10 or less. I think you could still have a virtual meeting, and then if they open it up, say to 20 people, then we could have 20 people in here, but there still could be people who come on virtually.
Okay. So we could approve it as is, but if it changes where we can allow for more, then we can get that word out.
And you could even add that in here if you wish to do that. But
or we can take it at that time. I just would hate to not allow the public to come if things are lifted, or when things are lifted more.
I agree.
The piece that I'm curious about, the one aspect I do like is if one of the board members aren't feeling well, quite honestly, at this stage, that'd be all right if they stayed home and so they have to be able to zoom in or whatever format we use. Is that the case for a non-virtual meeting as well? Does the board still have that ability to do that, to zoom or to video chat in? It doesn't matter, I don't need to answer that, but I like that flexibility. Yeah. That's not.
But that same day that you did it was when we classified it as virtual, and I'm wondering if they gave the state special ability in which to do that because of it. I don't remember exactly. There's something though, because I had a friend who's in Bagley who's been ill, and he would take the meetings virtual. So I wonder if they didn't pass this, maybe this legislation or whatever it is to get permission for him to do that.
Yeah, I thought that was before all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was even a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as somebody else wakes up that temperature, they can video chat in.
Yeah.
We'll look into that a lot more closely for the next meeting to be able to answer those questions.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we will now get into discussion about our 2020 graduation commencement ceremony. I don't know if Principal Rusk is going to join us.
I also believe that Amy Jordan from LEC and Jessica Hopper-Joki are also going to be available. So I think we might have to have you guys wait to come in. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. lot of changes since we sent out the board
Yeah.
agenda on Friday.
Yes, hi everyone, I'm back with you. Just have a few notes I wanted to share. So it's been a busy couple weeks of maybe planning and then changing our course. Last Friday morning, as I think all of you are aware, the Minnesota Department of Health and the Minnesota Department of Education released their guidelines in regards to commencement and celebrations. And I wasn't surprised, but I think just to be fair to all of us that were in a place more of hope, I was saddened by the news of this. And over the weekend, Friday, I was grateful though that a team of staff at the high school, which included 3 parents of seniors, met quickly with me to start talking about what do we do? I mean, how do we respond now that we have got this information? And they were wonderful. I think they kind of were the glue that held me together a little bit and gave me some ideas about how do we move forward and plan and celebrate and honor in the face of some adversity. And so we did. We took our ideas about a senior sunset that we had previously talked about of having just a virtual event on the 22nd to culminate the end of their school year where the commencement would have been, to a discussion that said, let's make it the best we can do and let's have a virtual ceremony. And then let's look at other ways that we can celebrate our seniors, both now and then potentially later this summer. And over the weekend, some of you know that you were getting ideas, and my inbox was flooded with lots of ideas. And I feel badly because I haven't been as timely about answering all of them personally. But I think it was really evident over the weekend that the well-meaning, well-intentioned people that were reaching out to me had one special graduate in their life. And they had one either granddaughter or one son or a set of twins that they wanted to celebrate and honor. However, my job is to represent them all. So my job has to be to plan something that is safe and equitable. And one of the emails I received this weekend was from a dad of a senior where his son is immunocompromised. And he was really fearful that we were going to go ahead and have a ceremony that his son wouldn't be at. So we are moving forward, and I want to just share some things. And with your support and blessing, we will continue on and celebrate this great class of 2020. The planning team Friday met, and then over the weekend we did some work on ideas. And I met this morning with our Grad Blast committee. Danielle and Nicole are 2 moms who are awesome. Grad Blast, as you know, or maybe don't know, is a community celebration. It's not necessarily school sponsored. We support it in the sense of offering a place to have it, but we let them take it and run, and they do fundraising and they buy prizes and they have entertainment. Well, I met with them this morning, and both mothers understood, the leads of the Grad Blast committee understood that they wanted to help, and they understand the need for a virtual ceremony. And they also said that, Andrea, is there any way that we could host a Grad Blast later this summer, if indeed it's safe to do so? And then we would have 2 celebrations. And I said, I'm all for that. But we'd also like to do some other special things. So I'm not going to disclose everything we are planning, but because some of them is a surprise for the seniors in a couple weeks. But right now, for our seniors, we have our senior recognition program, which we will be taping tomorrow morning, and then will be released. And that is sponsored by the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation. Many of you have helped with that in years past. Jessica Gangle and I will be taping that tomorrow.
And again, lots and lots of recipients that we'll be honoring and recognizing, and that will be released on Wednesday through a link on the Brainerd High School Facebook page and our Brainerd High School webpage. And then it'll also be sent to the senior class and parents so they can just watch the program. And I'm excited about that. And I know some of the kids are excited. I got 2 emails this morning from seniors wanting to make sure what time's the program on. And so we'll be doing that.
And what time is that program?
We hope we hope to release it when Wednesday at 6:30, which is the time that the program was going to be. So Wednesday at 6:30, but it'll be linked on our pages so you can go in and watch it when you can or are able to. And then on Thursday night this week, we have radio night for Brainerd High School Warriors seniors graduating. And that is on WWWI FM Cash 95.9 FM. And they are dedicating an hour to the Brainerd High School graduating seniors. So you can start calling in at 6 o'clock, and we're encouraging, we sent an email out it's going out to parents tomorrow morning, and then Warrior seniors so that they can call in, and our staff has been notified so they can call in, and you can give a shout out to a special senior or a group of seniors or the entire senior class. So I encourage all of you, I can provide that information for you on the web page and the link and the phone number to keep calling. And that's a local radio station. So they've been very supportive of school events in the past. We have our last day for seniors on Friday, and then next week on Monday and Tuesday, we have planned a pickup and drop off at high school, and we're having staff come by and safely collect their materials and then hand out caps and gowns and tassels. And then they have a thing from middle school where they wrote back in middle school their future plans. And that's a big thing every year for them to pick up and they look back on and remember. And then other projects that they left at school, and just kind of a time where they could come in and drop off textbooks and materials, but also pick up. And then we, with the Grad Blast Committee, we are gonna do the virtual ceremony on May 22nd at 8 p.m. That's our plan, and our hope is that we can have a blend of a live stream and pre-recorded messages, and then have a backup as a pre-recorded program if the live stream goes down. Because when we're in person, we don't have to worry so much about that, but being that will be our way that we're gonna host the ceremony, we wanna make sure that we back up. And then the following week, the Grad Blast Committee is creating a photo backdrop. And when we hand out diplomas the week after the ceremony, they can come in and we'll provide information to seniors that they can come in and take pictures of the photo op after they get their diplomas. The diplomas are being held up. We're hoping that they're going to be coming in the next week. But again, they, like many other businesses, are facing distribution challenges. And so we, along with a lot of other high schools in the country, are waiting for that. They usually don't typically run those until the last few weeks before commencement. So I am open to questions, comments, input. I received a lot of really, really great ideas. And I, again, want to thank all the community that's been emailing me and giving ideas. I've said it from the beginning that I look at the senior class through an equity lens. And when we're on the field, we're all equal. We're dressed alike and we get them there to the field. But if we have a parade or a walking parade or a driving parade, those are really great ideas, but know that some students wouldn't be able to participate. So we're trying to be really cautious and think of ways that we can honor and celebrate them, make sure they're all included.
So Andrea, in the agenda tonight, the actual agenda has what the plan was on Friday and has since changed because of the recommendation, and it's not even recommendations, the guidelines that we were given from MDE and MDH and so on.
Right.
And so the action item has definitely changed as far as your recommendation to have a virtual graduation on the 22nd of May. And then will it be at the same time as the normal graduation?
Well, we want to culminate with our plans to have fireworks that evening.
Okay.
And so that knowing that the program will be shortened a little bit, we wanted them at dark, at dusk.
Okay.
So the committee had said, let's move it to 8 o'clock, to have the program be at 8 o'clock, so that it can kind of correspond with dusk and the fireworks at about 9:30.
So, okay, does this mean that you're not gonna have the backup dates for the onsite?
Right, the Minnesota Department of Health and the Minnesota Department of Education have recommended that we do not delay ceremonies and celebrations. They are recommending that schools should go forward with having a celebration of some site. And the Grad Bus Committee, however, did ask my opinion on if they could host one later this summer, an in-person celebration. They asked about a tailgate party, a picnic. And I think they would like to have that happen if it can be done safely and use, a school facility.
So we'd like to, when we started our meeting in the public input, there were 2 comments that came in that I didn't read at that time, but I'd like to read those now, and then my understanding is there's a couple others that we'll read and then we can discuss this a little bit further. So the first one, if I may, says, I know that alternate dates for graduation have been selected, that the class of 2020 does get to do the graduation ceremony on May 22nd. Is there any way that we can still do graduation in May? One way that other schools have been able to do this is by setting up 2-hour blocks for graduates going by their last name, i.e. 4 p.m. A to B, 6 p.m. C to D, etc. This can be done over multiple days and at multiple time frames. Spectators can be limited to 2 parents or guardians for each graduate to assist with social distancing. I know that if the ceremony is canceled past June, my child would choose not to go. I would assume this would be the same for most graduates. They are moving on with college and life in general, and high school is over for them. Please talk with the high school and board members and decide if there's a socially distanced way with a large class size Brainerd has, so we can still have graduation in May. Thank you, Jennifer Moley. The second one is, reads, let me first thank everyone that has been involved in previous or current projects to recognize our graduating seniors. I know we all feel very sad that seniors will not have the same opportunities to create and make memories of their senior year spring events that all of us have enjoyed. That is why it is important for us to do whatever we can to provide the seniors with as many creative ideas and actions as we can in order to help them have the memories that we all treasure. I have heard and read many great ideas on how to celebrate and recognize our graduating seniors. The only thing that will limit us is ourselves. I know there are many folks waiting and willing to volunteer to help make this difficult time more special for our kids. But when asked the school board members, administration, the staff, and the community to please brainstorm, listen, and think outside the box in order to provide our seniors with events which will provide them with fun, exciting, special events that will give them the same memories that we all have. I have suggested a walking graduation parade, which I hope that at least one of the folks I have provided the details for this event will share with all of you to discuss and consider. Again, we are limited by ourselves. Thank you, John Ward. And then I believe we have 2 other comments that have come in. And Corey, are you listening? And if so, can you read those for us?
Yep, excuse me, I'm here, and I will read them. The first one is from Catherine Clock, saying most of us watching are wanting to know about the graduation and what's going on. And the second one is a little lengthier, so here goes. BPS Board of Education Superintendent Larson and Principal Rusk. First, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone at the Brainerd Public Schools for their tireless efforts during this unprecedented time. I am saddened that COVID-19 and shelter-in-place rules have impacted the traditional end-of-year celebrations for all of our students, but most importantly, our 2020 graduates. As a Brainerd High School alum, I have fond memories of my final weeks and days in the hallways of BHS, and my heart breaks for the class of 2020. They graduate during an unprecedented historical moment and have been robbed of the last few months of their senior year. Typically a time filled with a flurry of celebrations, prom, pep fest, banquets, yearbook ceremony, culminating in the final rite of passage for seniors, graduation. I'm sure many of you have special memories of your own children graduating from BHS, or maybe you too are an alum and experienced it firsthand. As a parent of a high school senior, we've experienced a mixture of emotions at our home. After the most recent announcement that graduation ceremonies are banned and districts are not encouraged to postpone, our hearts sank. It's easy to get caught up into all that is being lost. I feel sad for my daughter Madison and the entire class of 2020. I'd like to help find ways to make the class of 2020 graduation memorable and unique. I started a Brainerd High School class of 2020 parent group on Facebook. There are over 150 parents in the group, and there's been some great suggestions. I invite you to check it out and read through the ideas. I've also recapped some of the many suggestions in the attached PDF. My hope is we can give a few options and then connect with the senior class via an online survey to get their input on what they'd like. The vast majority of parents are hanging on to hope that our students will be given the opportunity for a traditional ceremony, even if it's months down the line. Several have suggested 2 celebrations, some sort of virtual ceremony this spring and in-person ceremony once COVID-19 mitigation allows. No class more than the class of 2020 has deserved 2 commencements. There are surely so many ways we can make it special. Please allow the class of 2020 and their families to weigh in on how to celebrate this important time in their lives. We are all warriors. Respectfully, Melissa Drake Hannah, BHS class of 1996. And then she has attached some ideas from the parent group Facebook.
I want to thank Melissa. She contacted me over the weekend, so we had some communication back and forth. And she also today followed up with inviting me to their Facebook page so that they had some very positive, creative ideas that they were offering. So I appreciate that from her.
So there are different things. Did I miss something of what took place on Friday from the governor then? I know there's restriction on holding a traditional ceremony.
The Minnesota Department of Health and the Minnesota Department of Education released guidelines for commencement ceremonies and celebrations. And the guidelines restrict hosting celebrations, I'll just say commencements, at stadiums or at outdoor facilities. I also want to note here, just publicly, that Christy Copham, the owner of BIR, and I have been in conversation too, and she's reached out and said, if you want to use BIR, let's talk. So a few weeks ago, I said, yes, Christy, I got your number, and we'll be in touch. And we were in communication over the weekend. So again, our community is definitely reaching out. Her daughter, Alyssa, graduated last year. So they, in the document released, it was a 12-page document very specifically defining what is recommended in the guidelines and in order to host a celebration. And they are not recommending in-person celebrations. I'll just paraphrase and you can go back and see it, but they're not recommending in-person celebrations for the most part, especially for a large school like Brainerd High School. And they also are not encouraging schools, like I had done last month, to pause. And I appreciate that. I understand that it gives some false hope maybe, and you delay a program and a few months down the line, like, this mother shared, is that people want to move on and they're moving on to colleges and military, and some of them are going right into the workforce. So that in essence is kind of what caused us to take another look at how we might be able to celebrate now. And then is it possible, later on this summer. Our senior class advisor, Ann Stengley, is on the planning committee, the senior celebration team. She also indicated that we don't know what's going to happen in the months ahead. However, that doesn't mean that we can't plan events as a follow-up celebration. And even, I think the idea is if it can't be this summer, we plan it to align with our homecoming weekend in October. So we have a special celebration for the class of 2020 for some of them that have left and maybe some that might be home on leave, that we can have that.
So are some of the ideas that have come in, are they within guidelines, or some of the ideas that you said parents have shared?
I would say that in a school our size, it would be very difficult to manage. I think that if safety and well-being of our students or seniors in our community is number one, it may be difficult to try to control a parade. I love parades. I love parades. And I get a little uneasy thinking about how we might be able to execute a parade safely, and then also make sure that we're inclusive to every senior being able to participate. We do have accessibility challenges with some of our seniors, and health challenges with some of our seniors. And then, of course, as the dad who emailed me this weekend, mom and dad, but their son would likely not participate in any event that may put him at risk of being, subjected to, any danger or a health scare. So again, I don't want to come off as negative and it can't be done, because I'm pretty much an optimist, and I at times will say we've been willing to try new things. I just, given the guidelines from the state of Minnesota, I think the parade is potentially possible if we have compliant community citizens. I just know that I read from a few other, like for the turn on the lights thing, that was a great idea for across Minnesota and across the nation. However, some schools faced students showing up at the fields and then congregating. They hadn't anticipated that, so they didn't have, say, security or supervision there to help make sure that kids didn't get out of their cars and didn't congregate together. And adults too. It wasn't just students. So I'm open to certainly looking at ideas. We spent some time today doing that, and we spent time on Friday, and I think over the weekend, collecting the input from our community staff and parents.
This has been very hard for you. So
It's hard for all of us. I mean,
absolutely.
it is. This isn't the business that we're in, distance learning. And this is like a really, it's a fun celebratory time of high school culture. So it is. And my niece is a senior, so I feel for her too. So.
Yeah, we may never see that day where we shake every student's hand coming by.
I know, Reed. I know. And
we might never see that.
I know. I know. And I have to share though on a like a personal note of the senior class. They've been amazing. They're not complaining, and they're not. I mean, they maybe are at home like all of our kids, do, but they aren't coming forward and complaining. To me, they're very respectful. They're emailing me with just really good questions, fair questions. They're disappointed, but boy, they have really demonstrated a lot of strength. And I say grit. I like to use that word, grit. And this is a blurb in their long life, but what a challenge.
So it will be memorable, but for the wrong reason.
Right. One girl wrote a reflection for her American government class, and she was born 9 days before 9/11. And she, kind of paralleled that with this. So she, but she also wrote a really great reflection about the positives. So, we talk about finding positives always, because we got to hang on to that hope, and we're going to get through this. And I am open. I mean, I come to you tonight. I really am. I don't have the answers, and I think that I'm very confident that any decision we make will not be 100% supported by everyone. But I think if we I think we want to move. We want to celebrate the kids, and we're in the last 2 weeks, the countdown for them, and so.
I'm glad that you're going to do the photo opportunity when they take up their diploma, because I think having that photo will be really important to them. And So that was one of my ideas after reading Melissa Dale Hannah's, that we have to have some kind of a backdrop for a really cool photo.
Right,
So,
right. Thanks to the grad blast, some volunteer right away said, I'll get on that, and because we don't have backdrops, we've always relied on our ceremony backdrop, the field.
And I think the whole board as a whole, if there's times and places we could be somewhere to help with something, we would really, because I'm gonna miss it a lot. I know we all love that ceremony.
Yeah.
I bought a pair of socks specifically.
Just for the ceremony, I know, but we can make sure that you can wear them. We'll figure out how you can get over and be in some photo ops.
So you don't really think any type of parade or anything will work?
I'm not saying it won't work. I won't. Director Kern, I would probably want, I would want to have a collective conversation how we can ensure the safety of people, because if Brainerd High School's name is on that parade, we gotta make sure it's safe. If somebody else plans a parade, I feel like other event organizations, plan things. I certainly would say that, it's a great idea. It is. And it would take just some good execution. It's kind of like prom commencement. You want to make sure you got a good plan, and you want to make sure you've got all the details worked out. And just having a parade when, you say, let's line them up. We have 467 to line up. Now, I've helped out with a homecoming parade before where you have maybe 100, and I've been at the 4th of July parade. And so and we have blended families too. One thing that the stay at home through executive order is, limiting, as we have adhered to here, is 10. So we have blended families that I know of that exceed 10. So how do we kind of ask them to comply with that in a parade setting where, we're not in their cars, but how do we do that? So I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm just saying that it may, I'm open to suggestions on how we can execute that safely.
Appreciate you keeping it fair and accessible for everyone. So that's the tough part.
Right, it is. And I've heard I've read a lot of great stories online of people, driving by homes and driving, having car parades. And I talked with some area principals too, of smaller schools, what they're doing.
What about if I don't know, this is totally off the wall, but BIRs would give their space and you divided it up to however many cars could fit in there and did like 4 nights of parades or something there with the stands. I don't know, just
I think BIR is a great venue.
Yeah.
I think that it's massive.
You'd have more safety where there wouldn't be other cars coming and going and stuff. So.
And Andrea, adding to that, couldn't you use like the inner part of the track as a staging area for the cars? Like you said, it's so huge out there that a system could be made where you could have a parade that would go on the track from the inside of the track. Right? I mean, I think most of that is open. I don't know what they call these other.
The tricky part is, and again, is it a ceremony or is it just simply a parade? And then, to comply with guidelines, we have to be really careful to make sure that we're, as a school district, complying with the guidelines of the state and safety. And I'm open to all those ideas. I also, just in complete honesty, we're trying to finish the last 2 weeks of the school year really on a high note, and distance learning, who would have guessed it would have been so exhausting, but it's going really well. The staff's working really hard, students, parents, everyone's working really hard to the finish line. So it depends on the timing of this as well to coordinate these events.
Well, and the nice thing about using BIR is you wouldn't have to have it on the 22nd. You could do it early June or something.
Right. And Christy Copham and I said we'd be in touch and maybe wait, because again, I don't know, but I do think it's important that on May 22nd, we celebrate our seniors.
I would agree.
And I hope that, you can support us that we want to make sure that we do that because it's timely. And the senior sunset was kind of our idea to celebrate them, and we'll ratchet it up and have it be the program, and then we can certainly do continued celebrations.
Andrea, talking about distance learning, has that affected how any of the kids will graduate? I mean, it slowed their progress in reading or meeting graduation requirements?
No, actually, I would say that we saw some really great commitments from our seniors, and they stepped up, and I think that the staff had to go out of their comfort zone of maybe connecting with students in a different way through the phone and through these video chats in order to make sure they had the support they needed to get those credits completed. So we've been tracking it from March 30th, our first day of distance learning, identifying students that were maybe in jeopardy of not graduating, and been tracking that weekly. Actually, almost daily, our school counseling team and SPED coordinator meet daily to kind of look at progress for seniors.
So on the 22nd, just sort of lay out the format. It'll be you and superintendent and board chair, and who else?
Actually, we have our TV crew that we've talked about as having it on the field and live streaming our messages from the field with backed up taped messages to if anything goes wrong. And then having our senior speeches. The seniors were notified last week, or my days are blending together. They were notified if they wanted to try out, just like we do every year. They can try out for a senior speech and submit their speech, give it to a committee that will evaluate them and score them, and then they get selected to speak. We're going to have one of our seniors do a solo, and absence of an ensemble. And we have a faculty speaker, Mr. Keith Peterson, who is retiring this year. The senior class cabinet selected him to speak. And then, and then we will, the listing of the graduates, the staff have already signed up to help out with the program of reading names like they do at the actual ceremony. So they'll read names, and if any of you wanted to read names, we're gonna have that be recorded. That aligns with a video presentation of their pictures and names of all the graduates as they go through.
So
We
Andrea,
also include like their class quote or something a
Yeah,
little
it's in the
extra.
program, and they're making like a program of, like what the program would look like. Okay, so that we'll still be printing programs for the graduates to have.
so with the Minnesota Department of Health, and the Minnesota Department of Education guidelines being questioned but also challenged, how do we move forward with this? I'll support wherever you lead us. I want to support that. But what happens if those guidelines are overturned soon? How do we plan for that? How do we adjust? Or do we get to a point where we just make a decision and close that book and move on?
In the document, I felt after reading it that this was the guidelines for this year. That there was no indication in the language of the guidelines that there's any intent or hope to overturn that, which is dramatically different from what I'm reading with the economic situation. That there is there's a lot of hope and there is pressure to get the phase in, open up, Minnesota, so that there's time markers. In this communication, they are strongly discouraging school districts from delaying ceremonies into late summer.
Thank you.
And I did tell you that we can throw commencement together in a few days. So if we did want to do that again, we could do that later this summer. I mean, I'm kind of the eternal optimist that, things may change and maybe there's a change. But again, I do think it's important listening to the senior celebration team that we put together about there's probably almost 20 people on it. They really felt like we needed to do a program and do that on the date of graduation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrea, for leading us through this graduation ceremony. And I too would agree with the 22nd we need to recognize. So it sounds like you've got a nice program coming together. I would ask though that you and your team and the 150 parents continue to see what we might be able to do. As Director Blackmon's indicated, things might change. I'm an optimist. I'd like to push it as far as we can. I'd rather err on doing some type of in-person ceremony at BAR, wherever it might be. I'd rather push at that end rather than the other. But there's, as we know, there's a lot of folks that are way on the left and a lot of folks that are way on the right. But I would prefer myself to see that we end up doing something. So I would just ask that you continue to work with that group, and maybe perhaps it's not at our next board meeting. Likely things won't change that quick, but perhaps even the following, maybe report back saying, hey, we came up with this brilliant idea, and we want to lead our community with that. See if we might retain some hope anyway going forward.
I will. I absolutely will. And I just wanted to make sure you're aware of some of the things that were going on, being planned already. The Grad Class Committee has always existed to throw a party for the kids, for the seniors. It's not necessarily for the grandparents or for the parents or for the friends. It's always been for the seniors. So I think their focus is wanting to have an event for the seniors. I think what we probably need to figure out is how might we be able to celebrate them with our community in a way that is safe and appropriate.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Thanks for that.
And I'll get in touch with you for pictures, okay? I'll send you for a photo op. I'll send you the schedule. So if you want to stop by and be part of the photo op, we can work you in there. Save it.
And then if they want to do names as well,
You can just get in touch with me if you want to do names, roll reading.
So that's pre-recorded at some point.
Right, it is pre-recorded in our we're on a fast track to get this going. So the name reading is, we have it tentatively set for next Thursday to make sure that we spend Friday putting it all together, the pieces.
the
So-
21st.
Yeah, the 21st. But we can work out a time. Mr. Dwyer and Justin Barnhart, they're awesome in helping us Justin's on our team, having a senior and being an integral part of our district staff too. So, that was a tentative date, so our team needs to get back together after tonight's meeting.
All right, great, thank you.
We also have Jessica and Amy out here that would like to tell you about their looking at graduation. Do we have 11 in here? Right? Yeah, I think we're going to. Sorry, guys. So Amy's gonna talk about Lincoln, what they're looking at and how they hope to comply with these changes.
Yeah, so our plan at Lincoln, our original plan at Lincoln is we always celebrate graduation the day before. So this year we were scheduled to do May 21st at 1 o'clock. We do ours during the school day to accommodate the needs of our students. So what my plan would be is that we would go ahead with that for May 21st, starting at 1 o'clock. I plan to do a pre-recorded video where I will read graduate surveys, which we always do we have 7 students that are graduating this year, so a little different than 467.
Yeah.
So I can read a little bit about each one of our students that they have written to be shared, and then read my message for the students, pre-record that, share that out with staff and families. Due to confidentiality issues, we don't the confidentiality of our program, I wouldn't release that or have that live streamed. And then the plan would be to offer students and families to be able to come to Lincoln to pick up their diploma and turn in their materials, or that we could get to their homes and distribute that if driving or accessibility is an issue. We have students from more than just the Brainerd area. We have students from surrounding communities that will be graduates at Lincoln this year.
So you're doing each of these individually then to comply? Is that
Yes.
what the plan is?
Yes.
So
And if
it'd be like 7 graduations then?
Correct. If they were able to come to the school and get their diploma, then I would have the students, with the guidelines that were released last week, it did say that they shouldn't get out of their vehicles. So as we had talked last week, we would maybe just do a small family ceremony. That won't work with the new guidelines, so that would have to be just a drive up, issue them their materials, and then unfortunately get rid of
And actually, you can't pass materials either.
Right, we would have to just open the back seat of the car or the window and give them the materials.
I think so.
Okay.
We'll talk.
I thought as long as I wasn't handing them the materials directly, that would probably be acceptable.
Okay, well, thank you for pulling that together. I think
Would you be able to share the video you do with board members too? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
That would be great.
Let's talk and see how we can figure that out. So, but you're still looking at 1 o'clock on the 21st.
Looking at starting at 1. Yes.
Okay.
Any questions?
thank you. Any questions?
Well, and they also can go over to the high school and get their picture taken at that time.
Yep, our students always have an opportunity to participate in the VHS graduation ceremony. We have 3 students this year who are opting to do that.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
You made it.
Good evening. So my ceremony is going to follow suit a little bit different than the other 2, but similar. So we are going to do a pre-recorded ceremony. We are going to work with district media to work through that. I will do my speech as usual, and then we will have the teaching staff talk through the students and the names like we have done in the past, say a little something about the student, all pre-recorded. On May 21st at 4 p.m. it will be released. So that's the same time as our graduation was planned for. We are going to set up a time for them to come in and pick up a cap and gown, and they can take that home, they can take pictures, and do whatever they'd like to do, and then return those items along with their district issued devices and get their diplomas at that point. That would be the following week.
Still gonna have the baby picture and graduation picture.
We're hoping for that as well, yes.
And how many students are you?
We are approaching 50 at this point, so we're hopeful, but we never know. It's a kind of a moving target. Our students also have the opportunity to participate with the Brainerd High School ceremony, and so they can have their names read as well.
Any questions? Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, this one. Here's our first graduate walking.
I hate to admit it, there was a question whether I was going to walk or not back in 1984.
We'll get into some informational updates during our time.
So for that last one, you wanted a motion or something.
No, that's not going to take.
I know, but do we need a motion for the virtual ceremony?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so anyway, that's, isn't what was on.
Okay.
Unless you want that for some.
I just saw the motions.
You don't need it.
Well, hang on a second. Maybe we could do something and just amend. I was looking at this strictly as the added dates here.
So we could just, I mean, if you want, just do.
I think that's a good idea, yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the BHS 2020 graduation ceremonies as presented by Principal Rusk. And they're currently scheduled to be a virtual ceremony on Friday, May 22nd.
Second.
Okay, so thank you. Motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Campbell for having a virtual senior sunset 2020 graduation. May 22nd at 8 p.m. Is that correct? Okay, great. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, I thought I would give you a curriculum update as we turn into the last 2 weeks of instruction for the school year. First of all, we'll start off with the thank yous for the teachers, curriculum leaders, TOSA's principals, staff, and the UNB leadership for the patience, the flexibility, and the amazing amount of teamwork that they have shown. It was not easy. We're still not done yet, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and the team is holding together. People are tired. It's been extremely hard work, but we have a good product, and we've done a very good job of trying to meet the needs of kids in less than ideal conditions. We stayed with the framework that I shared with you back in March. We started with core instruction. We adapted and modified through priority standards, and we've worked on providing targeted staff development, just what people need to know right now in order to do the next thing that needs to be done. And so we haven't wasted anyone's time with superfluous actions. The discipline with which the TOSAs and current leaders have shown in staying focused on that target has been impressive. And we just solved the specific problems as we went along, whether it was how do you take a running record, okay, with RAS kids, or who needs to know screencastify and who does not need to know how to screencastify. We thought that our biggest challenges would be maintaining and creating relationships with students and families, and that assessing a student work would be difficult. And both of those have turned out to be true. Those have been our biggest challenges. Though with creating relationships, one of the things that bears mentioning is there are many, many stories of improved relationships. The cooperation between parents and teachers has never been higher. And the linking between those in cooperation, support of a child's learning, in many, many cases has been tremendously efficacious and successful. The challenge of distance learning is the technology acts as an amplifier. It can make good things better, and it can make bad things worse. So families who were able to support their children through time and resources probably had a much better experience than families who parent was alone, or the parent lived in an area where Wi-Fi was not as available as we wanted it to be, or their work shifts did not allow them to line up when teacher was available during the work day. So those challenges were amplified. So we do have populations of students where their connection to us has been interrupted. We haven't lost, but it has been interrupted. And so, like I said, it's made good things stronger. It's made some tough things tougher. That's just the nature of distance learning, the imperfect state. And that's the honest appraisal of it. But what we did and what we continue to do is the absolute best that can be done under the situation, with the conditions we've been given. At the start of this, we focused not on assessment, but on growth and learning. As we turn to the last 2 weeks of the school year, we now need to come back to some responsibilities that we always have. We will always have an obligation to document what students have done. We always must, to the best of our ability, provide the next instructor in our district route with as much information as possible so they can pick up the threads of learning when we turn the corner next fall. And we also still have an obligation to inform students and parents to the best of our ability what students know and are able to do. So to that extent, we are doing end-of-year assessments, but only on the targeted, identified standards that we set out to instruct at the very beginning of distance learning. Again, our discipline has been in place. So there'll be some elementary report cards with more NAs, not assessed, than there have been in years past. There will be different markings on secondary grades as well. We are grading A through D. If the student is not performing in an A through D on the assessments that we've targeted, then whether they're middle school or high school, there's an NS option, which means not submitted. We don't have evidence of the student's learning against that standard. And this may be a function of interruption. There also is going to be some CR marks as well. Yes, you were with us, you were trying, but we're not seeing the performance that we need to see. That's more of a middle school standard than a high school standard. It's important for us to remember that our teachers set out to preserve rigor and support kids, and they've shown the courage to do this. There are places around us that did not choose to do that. They chose to go the route of pass-fail. The minute we go through that route, the minute we stop collecting evidence of learning to pass to the next teacher, we're going to make it much harder on ourselves later to bring this all back up to full speed and be back to a comprehensive education. If we retreat from rigor, those will be hard engines to turn back on, because our older students, they're still teenagers. If they learn that it doesn't matter, then it won't. So we must lean in on that and still strive with charity and compassion to hold students accountable for the work that they are capable of doing for us in the context in which they're capable of doing it. So that's where we're at in terms of assessing as we come to the end of the year. That means we're going to start assessing a little bit earlier. We're not going to wait till just the week of the 18th to the 22nd. We're going to start some assessments before that, so we have an opportunity to go find those kids who've been interrupted and continue to make sure the lamp is on, come on in, we'll assess you, we'll still work with you. That's the equity of what we're attempting to do. So that's where we're at in terms of assessment. Just in terms of some of the mechanics of the curriculum process, I've been promising 7th and 8th grade science. I finally have enough votes from DAC as of this afternoon. That has a recommendation when we come to the school board for the last meeting in May. If I can squeak out middle school language arts, they will be giving me their recommendation on Friday. District Advisory Committee has a reasonable chance to evaluate the presentation. Intermediate algebra can occur in June or July. There's no budgetary pressure on that course. It's a pure OER course, 9th grade intermediate algebra. So it's not faced with me up against a June 30th of the fiscal year to expend a budget upon it without wrecking budgets downstream. So that one will just come when it's ready to come, as long as we're ready for next fall. That said, questions from the school board?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
For kids that are falling behind, are they going to have summer school opportunities?
There are 3 components to summer school. And so I would love to give you the short answer, yes, but you know my answers are never short. Okay. There are 3 components to that. ESY, which is extended school year for special ed students, that has to occur, mandated federal law, we will be doing it. Then there's credit recovery at the high school. We have juniors and seniors who need credits to graduate. They're at a point we will be doing a distance learning form of credit recovery. The conversation we're currently having is, do we do 1 session or 2? Do we do a June session and an August, or we just do the June? Targeted services, which is credit recovery for K through 8, that is to be determined at a meeting on Wednesday. We're not sure what level of participation we would get. We're not sure if we would have people willing to do it. So there's some questions about this, though I think the underlying pressure is, for the one, it's worth it. We want to try and do it. But we still have some challenges to figure out there. Okay, so that one will be decided at the Wednesday admin meeting. Does that help?
Yes, can you let us know at the next meeting about that? And then my other question is, you talked about one of the cooperation between parent, child, and teacher, how much better that's gotten, or how good that's been during this distant learning. But then you also said that there's some problems with communication between teacher and parent because of timing. Have we given teachers flexibility on their workday since they're working from home, where they can take an hour off during the day so they can do phone calls at night?
They have.
Okay.
What's been more common is the teachers working a 10 to 12 hour day.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been very flexible with the teachers on this, but the reality is we can give them permission to do that, but their sense of obligation to their student will trump it in the end. We gave them permission to communicate to families. If you email us outside of X, Y, and Z during the day, don't expect an answer till tomorrow. Okay, problem with that is, what do you wake up to tomorrow? It's still the same number of emails, larger. You spend any time chewing through that, you're now behind on everything else. There's no good way to do distance learning now.
So they're overwhelmed with the communication part of it.
Yeah. And I don't say that to their detriment. They're performing heroically to try and stay on top of it. I don't think people are fully cognizant of the effort that's always going in here by our teachers.
And I would guess we as the board are not, so that's, any information you can give us on that is great.
There's hanging in there.
I appreciate the commitment to rigor that our faculty have adhered to. I have a bit of a concern, which is just a question, is for my wife and I, we're educators ourselves professionally. We're fairly experienced with different platforms and whatnot used. So fortunately for our kids, when it comes time to submitting assignments and doing those intricacies of distance learning, how are the faculty encouraged to handle those situations for, it couldn't be any student, I don't think there'd be a way to quantify it, but for students that are struggling or maybe struggle in the first few weeks of learning from a distance in the simple pieces of even getting an assignment submitted or an assignment submitted appropriately. Quite honestly, with my family, Catherine and I had to sit down and say, okay, this is the way we submit this, and kind of walk that through. I'm pleased that we were able to support our students that way, but I'm concerned about those students who may not have the same privilege.
That is the equity challenge of distance learning. What have we done intentionally? We created the help desk through Mrs. Porsche in the IT department and her team. Gentlemen behind me will attest to this. They have worked tirelessly, very long hours, trying to make sure connectivity and technical issues were solved. Teachers were backed up by interventionists, both special ed and the classical interventionists at the elementary area. They were instructed to give grace on due dates and on expectations. There were protocols set up at each school about how many times a teacher would reach out to a family, how many different ways they would reach out to a family, kick it up to administrators. The administrators are burning midnight oil trying to get a hold of the families. It's been an all hands on deck. We didn't solve every problem. We didn't reach all of them. But the effort was comprehensive and total. At some point, some people, for good or for worse, probably had to make some very difficult choices in their families about where their priorities lay at this time. And despite our best efforts, we weren't able to help them through all of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Next up will be business service report that Marcy has. More, if you got it.
All right, so in your board packet is the enrollment report. Since the beginning of the year, we are down 74 kids in kindergarten through 12. We are up 1 when we include early childhood. In comparison to the prior year, we were down 119 from the beginning of the year, and then down 32 in early childhood through 12. So this is the last report for this year, and then soon we'll start doing submissions to the state with our enrollment data. And in September timeframe, we'll get clean data and I should be able to report back how close we were to budget compared to our actual ADMs. And then we will start the new enrollment report.
And will we be able to do the audit earlier this year, in hopes that we can find out how we finished up this year so that we know what next year looks like?
I did talk to Mary on Friday and she does, so they are scheduled with other schools. So the audit will still be in October, but if we can get as much to them sooner, I mean, it'll just go that much quicker. So hopefully we can get it a little bit quicker. And then I just wanted to note the check register that the next meeting will probably be quite a bit longer than what you're used to seeing because we are doing a substantial amount of refunds to parents. So, you know, you're gonna see it's several pages more than what it has been in the past. And then I did just want to apologize, you know, on that IT contract so that they can auto renew as of June 1st, and there is a 30-day termination after that. So either party could terminate within 30 days within that year. So I want to clarify that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't change the vote.
You want to be the one, huh?
Well, I don't like being the one. Right, then used to it. All right, superintendent's report.
Right. Hard meeting tonight. This one is the one I think that you've all been hoping that you weren't going to have. I know tomorrow morning I do my little speech that I do for senior recognition. That'll go out on the 13th. And just even to think about what to say and how to say it and how to be sincere and without being redundant. And these kids just deserve better than this. They deserve better than this. But we're going to try to make the rest of this ring finish strong, like we always do, and we're going to try to make it as wonderful as we can. And I know that Andrea has lots of fun things going on that they're hoping at the high school to make it. Like she said, there's lots of surprises for the seniors, and so there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to know that they're special and that they're loved and that we appreciate all that they've done and that we wish them well in their future. So the calendar is busy for the next couple of weeks. The 13th then, the senior recognition banquet will, that'll come out virtually, which is really going to be exciting to see who gets the scholarships. On the 14th, the senior recognition call-in to WWWI, and in your board memo, the telephone number was there, and so if the board has a chance to make a call and just wish the kids, you know, congratulations and stuff, that would be greatly appreciated. The number is right there, 218-828-9994. Also next week, we have project oversight on Tuesday, and following project oversight, and Ruth, I told you this, but Dave Bergeron is going to have a quick meeting called Going Forward, just with an update of where we're at in the projects and some of that. So there is a little meeting after the actual project oversight. So Thursday, the 21st of May, we will have the Lincoln Education graduation at 1 o'clock. The Brainerd Learning Center virtual graduation at 4 o'clock. And on the 22nd, we will have our virtual graduation for our senior class at 8 p.m. And we will do that virtually. And so if you can find a way or some time to get involved and do names, or like you said, to be there when they're taking pictures, I know they greatly appreciate it. There's one other change that I talked about in the memo, and that is that we have 3 projects that are starting. And we're going to be having the virtual on-site groundbreakings for Garfield, Lowell, and Riverside on Thursday, May 28th. Right now, we're still limited to the 10 people. We're trying to figure it out, though, to see, is there a way of having a few people up to do the speeches and then have the rest of the board there so we could do the official digging of the sand. Please watch this week's memo, and I'll I'll have more clarification on that. But it's always fun to have the picture of the board doing the turning of the sand at each of those projects. We've been working really closely with technology. Again, you guys are the best. You're absolutely rock stars. You'll notice that the times are a little bit separate, but if we do the groundbreaking at Garfield at 8:30, and all of them are going to be at the front entrance. We're going to try to make this as simple for technology as we can. 8:30 will be Garfield. Then when we're turning over the sand, they're going to be running over to Lowell, and at 11:30, they feel that they'll be prepared for the technology to be able to have the groundbreaking for Lowell at 11:30. And then they'll take off, and at 3 o'clock, we'll have the groundbreaking at Riverside Elementary. If possible, we're going to try to figure out a way that we can follow the social distancing and everything to have everyone there and to do that. So please keep the 28th. We got a little bit of time. There could be some relaxation and such even by then, and so we'll cross our fingers. I think for now that's pretty much what my report is. But I should tell you that the groundbreakings are going to be virtual as well. And so there'll be a quick welcome. There'll be a few dignitary remarks, the ceremonial dig, and then the thank you. So they'll be modified as well, but we want to get that into our historic record books as well. So that ends my report.
Lane, if I could just share one piece that might be somewhat pertinent. When I was a boy, growing up, I had an older brother and an older sister. My brother's 6 years older than I am, and my sister is 3 years older than I am. When my oldest brother graduated high school, education was extremely important to my folks, to my mom and my dad. So what they did for my brother was they had a large powwow and wachipi dance and celebration for my brother when he graduated. And they prepared for a year with gifts and food and whatnot. And it came the day of his graduation. They had that powwow the weekend. It was a large event for our small town. Everybody's invited. Traditional dancers. My grandfather was instrumental in terms of planning that. He had a drum group back then, and it was a special time. When my sister graduated high school 3 years later, we did the same thing. Had prepared it a year ahead of time, carried it out the weekend of my sister's graduation. It was such a special time looking back. Unfortunately, about a year and a half before I graduated high school, my grandfather passed away. And I was beginning to look towards it as almost a right of mine is to have this powwow and wachipi look like it was slipping through my hands. And eventually I did graduate high school, which was great. And my parents prepared for a year in celebration of my graduation. But we did not have a powwow and wachipi that year for various reasons, but in large part because my grandfather was gone. And looking back, Wayne, that what I thought was going to be such a special time was a pain at the time, and it was a bit of a loss. But years removed, and after the loss of my mom, those graduation celebration that I received when it was my turn was so much different than what I expected. So much different than what I felt I needed at that point in time. But when I talk to my children about that day, it's different, but it's just as special. And I was so pleased that my parents did what they could to celebrate my graduation. And I hope that our graduates this year look at it down the road, their graduations in the same way that I did when I was a youth.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Charles. It's a special memory that you carry on today. Because we have a senior graduating this year in high school. We had a senior graduate from college last Friday, so it's definitely different. But what I try to remind them is 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you'll always have this memory of, we didn't have ceremony because, all the events. So Thank you. Anything else to come before the board? If not, motion to adjourn. Motion second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.